Hello. Today, I will persuade you guys that Americans have the right to bear arms and gun control laws do not effectively save lives. To a lot of people, taking away guns and putting many restrictions on them will reduce the crime rates, and to others, they think that it will not be effective. I've always been interested in the controversy of this topic and the different viewpoints that people have. In the last few weeks, I've read countless articles and have researched about this topic and become very knowledgeable about it. There are many different viewpoints about this topic because it is very controversial. There are many sides to the argument, but I believe that gun laws do not effectively save lives, and we need to think of better solutions. First, I will discuss to you what the Second Amendment is and why Americans should have the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." The Second Amendment was adopted into the United States Constitution on December 15, 1791, introduced by James Madison. When the Second Amendment was written, bear arms meant to carry weapons. It did not include the types of guns just considered to be bear arms. When it says bear arms, it means that you can have guns on you or even in your home. Shall not be infringed is in context from the Second Amendment does not grant us the right to carry weapons. The right to bear arms is natural rights and God-given rights. The Second Amendment is just a reminder to the government that Americans should have the right to bear arms, and it should not be given restrictions. Next, I want to discuss the many reasons why gun control does not save lives. The first reason why it doesn't is because guns don't kill people. People kill people. The real issue behind gun killing is not the gun itself. The real problem is the people behind the gun. According to surveys done by Gresti and Smith, there were roughly 300 million firearms owned by citizens in the U.S. Of those 300 million firearms, 100 million of those were handguns, and 67% of those gun owners said that they had their guns for self-defense. 65% of them said that they used the guns for hunting, and 40% said they used for target shooting. A study was conducted by the same people which said that in 2010, U.S. citizens had a gun to defend themselves about 990,000 times a year. These statistics show that there are many different uses for guns, and that they can be used for negative or positive reasons. Another survey conducted by the U.S. found that Americans use guns to frighten away intruders who are breaking in their homes about 500,000 times a year. It is up to the operator of the gun to determine if the gun is going to be used for recreation, hunting, or self-defense, or if it's going to be used as a murder weapon. Next, gun control does not save lives because taking away certain guns can prevent people from defending themselves. Banning guns from people can, in fact, put people in greater danger because it prevents people from using these guns to protect themselves from danger. When an individual has a handgun and is trained to use it effectively, it is easily the safest and most effective form of self-defense. According to John Stossel, who is a national syndicated newspaper columnist, as well as a journalist and reporter for Fox News, says laws against guns are really laws against self-defense, and mandatory gun-free zones are actually in crime-free zones. Another quote from Stossel says, "When people are stripped of the most effective form of self-defense, they are vulnerable, and this is a serious problem." From these quotes, it's easy to conclude that when laws against guns are put into effect, people will lose their most effective form of self-defense, and it puts them at risk. My next reason why gun control does not save lives is because gun bans will not stop criminals from getting them. Whether there are gun laws or not, criminals will still find a way to get guns in their possession. If you don't think that is true, think about drug dogs. Drugs have been illegal, and it does not stop people from getting these drugs off the black market. An example of someone getting guns off the black market is the Bernardino shooting. According to Bernard McDermott, the shooters, Ryan Farouk and Tashiz Malik, utilized several guns in their attack on Farouk's co-worker during a holiday party in November that killed 14 people and injured 22. He then goes on to say that, in addition to the pistols that they acquired, the husband-wife team had two military-style rifles that they got from a friend, Enrique Marquez Jr. The next example is talking about the shooting in Orlando at the nightclub, according to Gary Youngich. This massacre is therefore a further reminder of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot people in a school or in a house of worship, a movie theater, or a nightclub. The Orlando mass shooting happened in a nightclub, but he talks about how it can happen anywhere, like in a school, a house of worship, or even a movie theater. Another statistic from McDermott is about 60% of a cross-section of American gun owners reported buying it from a store. The other 40% received it as a gift or acquired it in a private transaction, which in most cases were not legal. Based on these stories, criminals will still find a way to get their hands on a gun no matter what the laws are. A law-abiding citizen will not go out of their way to get a gun illegally, but it is a criminal is looking to rob a bank or murder someone, they are not going to think twice about getting that gun illegally. The next reason why gun control violence does not save lives is because cities with the strictest gun laws have statistically more gun violence. It is more common around the United States that the states with the strictest gun control laws do have the most violence. In an article written by Kelly Bauer, it says in Chicago, which has the toughest gun laws in the United States, probably you could say by far, they have more gun violence than any other city. In Chicago, they have many strict gun laws, which make them the city with the strictest gun laws. They do not allow open carry of any type of gun. Chicago allows concealed carry, but they have very strict laws about it. You must be approved to receive a license, and you cannot have guns in prohibited areas. Like schools, Chicago does not allow any type of assault weapon under any circumstance, which is different from other states. According to Philip Bump, reporter for the Washington Post, he says there is no question that Chicago sees the most gun violence in the rest of the country. Since 2013, Chicago has seen more than 200 people wounded in mass shootings and 32 killed. This is far more than any other city. Ever since the Chicago handgun ban, the Chicago murder rate has averaged 70% lower than it was before the law took effect, while the rest of the U.S. murder rate has averaged lower than 25%. To conclude this point, the effectiveness of having a very strict gun law in a certain city is not nearly as effective as having no gun laws whatsoever. Finally, I'll tell you how we can resolve this issue. First, we need to make sure that everybody is aware of gun safety. We need to make sure everybody's informed on how to use a gun and the damages that it can do. Second, we need to make sure that we punish those severely who do not use guns for the right purpose. And lastly, we need to make sure that police officers are trained to the full potential on how to properly use a gun. In conclusion, there are many different sides of the controversy of gun control, but I believe that all these gun control laws are not effectively saving lives of American people, and there are many different ways to fix these problems. Now that you know about this side of the story, I hope you take your stand against these extremely strict gun control laws.